Hello students, today in this module we will be discussing with students with achievement problems. You all know that students are not common in all the respects, each student is unique, some might be performing well, some might not be performing well, and why this performance is variating and what are the different problems that they are experiencing in exhibiting their performance. Achievement problems will generally crop up when students do not set the goals and they do not plan how to reach them. And not only that, even when they adequately do not monitor their progress towards the goals, achievement problems are bound to occur. We have seen even in the last module how goal setting is important. So, achievement problems arise when students are low achievers, when they have low expectations for success, when they try to protect their self-worth by avoiding failure, by procrastinating, and when they are very perfectionists, and when they become overwhelmed by anxiety, or if they become uninterested or alienated from the school. So, many of these obstacles to achievement surface during elementary school and they become more pronounced during middle school or high school. Now, we will discuss a number of strategies that teachers, counselors, mentors and parents can use to help these students overcome their problems or obstacles to the achievement. So, whatever we have discussed, that you can see in this figure 1, exploring achievement difficulties. If you look at that figure, the first one is about those problems, achievement problems which occur because of the lack of progress. The second one is probably due to the procrastination, third one about anxiety, the fourth one when they were uninterested or demotivated, when they are isolated, that is alienated. So, you can understand this particular topic. Now, what are the achievement difficulties? The first problem is now students who are low achieving and who have low expectations for success. The students with low expectations and low achieving students, what sort of characteristics will be there? That has been stated by Jerry Brophy in 1998. So, some of the prominent characteristics are, these low achieving students need to be consistently reassured that definitely you can meet the goals and challenges that have been set for you, and you will be given some help and support that is necessary to succeed. So, this assurance has to be repeatedly given to them. However, they also need to be reminded that their progress will be accepted as long as they make a real effort. The third important element which we observe in them is, they might require individualized, tailor-made instructional materials or activities to provide an optimal challenge for their skill level. So, we cannot have a common kind of a strategy to all the students, and these low achieving students should be helped in setting their learning goals and also provide them the support to reach these goals. They should also put forth considerable effort and make progress, even though they might not have the ability to perform at the level of the class as a whole. Then what is this failure syndrome? This failure syndrome refers to having low expectations for success and give up at the first sign of difficulty. So, failure syndrome students are different from low achieving students in a slight way. Low achieving students fail despite putting forth their best effort, whereas failure syndrome students, they do not put forth enough effort, often beginning tasks in a half-hearted manner and giving up quickly at the first hint of a challenge. Failure syndrome students generally have low self-efficacy and a fixed mindset. Then what strategies can be used to increase the motivation of the students who display this failure syndrome? Some of you might have seen among your own classmates, among your own friends who suffer with this kind of a failure syndrome. So, they can be helped best with cognitive retraining methods like efficacy retraining and strategy retraining. You can see in this slide what are those two cognitive retraining methods that increase the motivation of the students who suffer with this kind of a failure syndrome. So, students who protect their self-worth by avoiding failure, this is another category. Failure avoiding students hold a fixed view of ability, so they set only performance goals. They lack a strong sense of their own competence and self-worth, which is different from their performance. In one way, we can say they feel only as smart as their last test grade, so they never develop a solid sense of self-efficacy. In order to feel competent, they must protect themselves and their self-worth from the failure. If they have been generally successful, they may avoid failure by taking few risks and sticking with what they know. On the other hand, if they have experienced number of failures, then they might adopt self-defeating strategies such as feeble efforts, setting very low or ridiculously high goals, or claiming not to care at all about that task. For example, just before a test, a student might say, "I did not study at all," or "all I want to do is just to pass." Then any grade above passing is a success for the student. So, procrastination is another example. Low grades do not imply low ability if the student can claim, "I did okay considering I did not start the term paper until last night." So, all these are self-handicapping strategies because the students are imposing handicaps on their own achievement. Very little learning is going on. But what will happen naturally when these students are using the failure avoiding strategies to avoid the failure? So, if failures continue and excuses wear thin, the students may finally decide that they are incompetent, their self-worth is very low and self-efficacy will also start deteriorating. So, they give up and then again experience like this kind of failure accepting students. Those students who attribute failure to low ability and believe ability is fixed, nothing can be happening with increasing this ability, they are likely to become depressed, apathetic and helpless. And sometimes like even they become very hopeless because they feel there is nothing to do much in order to bring about the change in their performance. So, teachers may be able to prevent some failure avoiding students from becoming failure accepting by using multiple assessments and setting a number of goals. So, when the teachers do this, all the students have a realistic chance of succeeding on at least some assessments and they reach at least few goals. This is very much important in the context where sexual or ethnic stereotypes assert that certain groups of people should not be able to do well. You might have seen like certain stereotypes, children from so and so socio-economic section may not be able to perform well. So, these stereotype threats are referred by Claude Steele as threat in the air, and these are common experiences in educational settings and they can lead to the beliefs about inequalities. For example, girls are not good at maths. So, how these stereotypes are coming up and how they are influencing the students' performance. So, these stereotypic views will influence the performance and subsequently they suffer. But they are attributing their ability in the domain to stable personality traits that are beyond their control cannot be accepted. So, teachers can overcome the impact of these stereotype threats, like especially which are very common in the subjects related to maths, science and technology, by illustrating that the learner is in control and the stereotype is not accurate. They can minimize the stress and promote active coping strategies to succeed even in these subjects, whether the students are coming from the lower socio-economic background or a particular ethnic culture or a race or from the gender point of view. So, teachers can teach them how to learn and then hold them accountable for their learning. This will help the students develop a sense of self-efficacy for learning, and they also avoid a feeling of learned helplessness, that I cannot do anything, I am helpless. Such kind of the feelings can be lessened. Some individuals are so interested in protecting their self-worth, they avoid failure by becoming distracted from pursuing goals and engage in ineffective strategies. So, these strategies include non-performance. For avoiding failure, they do not try at all. In the classroom, non-performance tactics include appearing eager to answer a teacher's question, but hoping the teacher will call on another student, sliding down in the seat to avoid being seen by the teacher and avoiding eye contact. Probably some of you might have done as kids in the class. So, these seem like minor deceptions, but they might become more chronic forms of non-involvement, such as dropping out and excessive absences. The another strategy that they use is procrastination. Individuals who postpone studying for a test until the last minute can blame failure on poor time management, thus deflecting attention away from the possibility that they are incompetent. So, a variation on this is to take on many responsibilities, so they have an excuse for not doing any one of them in a highly competent manner. Then setting unreachable goals. By setting goals so high that success is virtually impossible. So, what the students do? They avoid the implication that they are incompetent, because virtually anyone would fail to reach this goal. So, unrealistic goals cannot be set, but these students do that. Then, what strategies can be used by the teachers to help these students reduce their preoccupation in protecting their self-worth and avoiding the failure? So, these strategies have been given by Covington and Teal. So, the first strategy is guide the students in setting challenging but realistic goals. The second strategy is help the students strengthen the link between how much of the effort they can put and their self-worth. Tell them that to take pride in their effort and warn them to minimize the social comparison. The third strategy is encourage the students to have positive beliefs about their abilities. So, emphasizing that abilities are not set, they can be improvable. Now, in a class, there will be another category of the students who procrastinate a lot. Do you procrastinate in your academic work or in your personal work? So, these students fail to reach their potential because regularly they engage in the procrastination. Procrastination is like delaying the things till the last minute. A recent meta-analysis research revealed that procrastination is strongly linked to low self-efficacy, low consciousness, distractibility and low achievement motivation. What are the reasons why students procrastinate? So, a study from the University of Buffalo Counseling Services, they revealed poor time management is one reason for procrastination, difficulty in concentration and fear of anxiety, that is like they are overwhelmed by the task that is given to them and they are afraid of getting a bad grade. So, all these things also contributed to the procrastination. Apart from that, negative beliefs about oneself, personal problems that will disturb them like financial problems or interpersonal relationship problems or boredom, then unrealistic expectations and perfectionism, that is believing you must read everything written on a subject before you begin to write a paper, for example, and fear of failure, like thinking if you don't get an A grade, you are a failure, and procrastination can take many forms. There are different types of procrastination that can be reflected in various kinds of the activities. So, this has been provided by Illinois Counseling Center from their research. One is either they ignore the task with the hope that it will go away. Second is underestimate the work involved in the task or overestimate one's abilities and resources. Spending endless hours on computer games and surfing the internet. Substituting a worthy but lower priority activity such as cleaning one's room. Then believing that repeated minor delays will not hurt. Then persevering only part of the task, that is only writing or rewriting the first paragraph of a paper but never getting to the body of it. And becoming paralyzed when you have to choose between two alternatives. For example, agonizing over whether to do biology homework or English homework, first with the outcome but neither is done. So, how this procrastination among the students can be reduced or eliminated? So, some strategies have been given again. Make them understand, that is admit that procrastination is a problem. Procrastinators do not face up the problem. When students admit that they procrastinate, we can do something with them to begin thinking about how to solve the problem. But if they are not admitting, where to start, how to start is not known to the teacher. Second one, encourage them to identify their values and goals. Get them to think how procrastination can undermine their values and goals. Third strategy, help them manage their time more effectively. Have the students make yearly, monthly, weekly and daily plans. Then help them monitor how they are using their time and what are the ways that they are using to use the time more wisely. Then have them divide the task into smaller parts. Students who procrastinate, they feel that the task is very big and they start postponing it. So, in order to make them concentrate on the task, divide the task into parts. So, when this is the case, definitely like students will be able to reach the sub goals, and when they reach the sub goals, that will motivate their performance, that will motivate them to complete the task, and that will improve their performance. Then unmanageable tasks can be made manageable when we are giving them the interim goals. Not only the short term and long term, but interim goals can also be set in order to decrease the procrastination. Then teach the students to use behavioral strategies, that is, ask them to identify what are the distractions that might be keeping them from focusing on the important tasks and activities. Make them note when and where they are able to engage better and where they are getting diverted. Then make them plan how to diminish and control these distractions. Other behavioral strategies include having a student make a contract with you or a parent or a mentor or with other students in order to provide them the reinforcement. So, that will give them, that incentive will make them to motivate to complete the task. Then help them learn how to use cognitive strategies. Encourage the students to watch for mental activities that can lead to behavioral diversions, like I will do it tomorrow. What's the problem with watching an hour or two of TV now? Or I can't do it now. So, when they are giving these statements, make them focus why they are doing this. Help them learn how to dispute these mental diversions, like I really don't have much time left and other things are sure to come up later. So, let me not watch TV now, let me not postpone the work for tomorrow, but now itself I have to complete the task. So, these mental disputations have to be taught to the children to reduce the procrastination. Next category of students who have achievement problem is students who are perfectionist. So far we understood how the students are procrastinating the things, and these category of students are, they are high on perfectionism. You know what is a perfectionism? They don't want to commit any mistake, mistakes are never acceptable to them, and they set high standards of performance which can never be achieved always. So, healthy achievers and perfectionism differ in a number of ways. Perfectionists are vulnerable to decreased productivity, impaired health, relationship problems and low self-esteem, depression, anxiety and eating disorders are very common outcomes of perfectionism. If you look at this slide, you can understand the difference between a student who is a perfectionist and who is a striver. A perfectionist will set the standards which are beyond reachable, never satisfied by anything less than perfection, and becomes very dysfunctionally depressed when experiences fail and disappointment occurs, preoccupied with fear of failure and disapproval, see mistakes as one's lack of worthiness, and they become overly defensive when criticized. Yeah, now what are the characteristics that you can see in a healthy striver? They set high standards, but which are reachable, that is, which are realistic. They enjoy the process and also the outcome. They are not just focusing only on the outcome, but even the process. They are readily bouncing back from the failure and come out from the disappointment very easily. They keep normal anxiety and fear of failure. They also see the mistakes as opportunities for growth and learning, and they react positively to the criticism. So, these are the differences between a perfectionist and a healthy striver. How can we improve this perfectionist behavior? That is, how we can make them perform better and reduce this perfectionism. Now, let us see the strategies given by University of Texas in order to reduce the perfectionist tendencies among the students. Have the students list out the advantages and disadvantages of trying to be perfect. When students are doing this, they can discover that the cost of trying to be perfect is too great. Second one, guide the students to become more aware of self-critical nature of all or none thinking. That is like either I have to be very perfect, successful or do nothing. So, this cannot be continued among the students. Help the students learn how to substitute more realistic, reasonable thoughts for their habitual, overly self-critical ones. The third strategy is help the students become realistic about what they can achieve. By getting the students to set more realistic goals, they will gradually see that imperfect outcomes don't lead to the negative consequences they expect and fear. Fourth one, talk with the students about learning to accept criticism. Perfectionists frequently consider criticism as a personal attack and they try to respond in a defensive way. So, guide the students to become more objective about the criticism and how the criticism can be taken in a constructive way. Then students with high anxiety. This is another category of students who face the achievement problems. You know what is an anxiety? It is a vague, highly unpleasant feeling of fear and apprehension. It is quite normal for all the students to be worried about when they face the challenges in the school or in the classroom, such as doing well on a test. But researchers have found many successful students have moderate levels of anxiety. In fact, moderate level of anxiety is very much important for a better performance. But students have high levels of anxiety and they worry constantly. When they do this, this can impair their ability to achieve. So, some students' high anxiety levels could be because parents' unrealistic achievement expectations and pressure, or similarly from the expectations of the teacher. For many students, anxiety increases across the school years as they face frequent evaluation, social comparison and experiences of failure. When schools create circumstances like continuous assessment, that may be improving the students' anxiety. Then what are the intervention programs that can be created to reduce the high anxiety levels? Some intervention programs emphasize relaxation techniques. These programs are very effective at reducing anxiety, but do not always lead to improved achievement. Anxiety intervention programs which are linked to worrying emphasize the students have to modify their negative self-damaging thoughts of their own anxiety, and they can be encourage them to engage in more positive task focused thoughts. So, these programs have been more effective than the relaxation programs in improving the students' achievement. Now, the last category of students who are uninterested or alienated. The most difficult motivation problem involves students who are apathetic, uninterested in learning or alienated from school learning. Achieving in school is not an important value for them. So, to reach these kind of apathetic students requires certain efforts to re-socialize their attitudes towards the school achievement. So, Brophy has given certain strategies to reach these uninterested or alienated students. One such strategy is develop a positive relationship with the student, because they are not at all interested in the classroom or in the subject or towards the other students. If they do not like the teacher, it is more difficult for them to get the work done. So, the teachers have to show the patience, be determined to help the student and push for steady progress in spite of the setbacks or resistance from the students. Then second strategy is make the school more intrinsically interesting. It is not just the test and assessment, but we can make the student very interesting to come to the class by creating certain environment, considering the student's interest, and if possible assignments can be given in such way where the student can use their interest, can prefer their interest, can reflect their interest in the work, so that they are motivated to attend to the teacher and to the work. Teach strategies for making academic work more enjoyable. So, help the students understand that they are causing their own problems and there are ways to help them taking pride in their work. So, how best the work can be done by them. Then consider a mentor. Find out like who can be a mentor in the community where the child is living, or any older student in whom the child believes. So, students, in this module you have understood what are the different achievement problems experienced by different categories of students. All students cannot perform in a similar way, but certain factors will hinder their performance. So, in this module we have seen students with achievement problems because of their fear of failure, who are experiencing this failure syndrome, who are very low achievers because they feel that they do not have the ability and the ability is fixed, they cannot improve their ability, and a set of students who are having high levels of procrastination. Because of the procrastination, they are not able to perform well. And on the other hand, we have seen the students who have high levels of perfectionism. They want to be perfect in every task that they do, and so they do not put any effort, ultimately resulting in the failure. Similarly, we also dealt with the students who have high levels of anxiety and what intervention programs have to be catered to these students in order to help them to reduce their anxiety levels, and some students who are uninterested to the school work or the classroom or to the teacher or to the subject, and who are completely feeling alienated. So, such students have to be dealt by the teachers with more high levels of patience and making them believe that they have the ability to do the work and trying to appreciate the work done by these uninterested students. So, this is what we have learnt in this module, the characteristics of all these students and also the strategies to help them overcome the problem that they are experiencing in performing well.